G'day mate, 40 here. So prior to the 1960s, people used to trust their soul to their clergyman. They used to trust their body to their doctor, their money to their accountant. There was much higher level of trust in expertise, in authority. So I think one reason that you and I have so many different views on, say, COVID, is because underneath that are all sorts of beliefs, many of which are unconscious. So starting with the 1960s, people developed much greater skepticism of what people in authority were saying. And we developed greater skepticism about whether people in authority were trustworthy, whether they were telling us things that are accurate. And now we're in 2021, and public health authorities are proclaiming one thing, then a few weeks later they're proclaiming something very different. And so how then shall we live? So here's my self-perception. So my self-perception is I don't automatically trust anything, and I don't automatically disregard anything. So Elliot Blatt, if he tells me something, I don't automatically trust it or distrust it. It would have to depend on what he told me, what was the context, and then how much relative value I accord to his opinion in that area. So if the Centers for Disease Control proclaims something, I don't automatically trust it or distrust it. I'd want to know more. Like what's their proclamation based on? If we're told that the CIA has universally agreed that Russia dramatically interfered in the 2016 US presidential election, just because the CIA says it, or the FBI says it, or the president says it, I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I need to know more. If the New York Times or the New York Post say something, I don't automatically agree or disagree. There are very few people who I tend to automatically take seriously. So I guess Steve Sailer is one person who comes to mind. But aside from that, no matter the source, I don't automatically take it seriously or unseriously. Like every source of information for me has to be examined critically. So, for example, peer-reviewed academic studies published in some Harvard publication. I don't automatically trust or distrust that, because the power of peer review, it's only as good as the peers doing the reviewing. So a lot of peer review is absolutely useless and pointless. It's just people in the same profession scratching each other's back. And then other peer review is really important. So I try to think critically about everything I'm talking about. Anyway, you're going to have a good laugh about this. I mean, you're going to think like 40 has really, flipped his yarmulke. He's gone total Fruit Loops. He's off in Bizarro World. Haven't been streaming much the last week or two because I've been paying so much attention to someone called the Kiwi Health Detective. The Kiwi Health Detective. It's a woman in her 60s, and I just think she's really wise. So she's got a YouTube channel. Her name's Kin Knight. So a week or so ago, I was reading a book on the Alexander technique. And this book, the author mentioned that she'd suffered from very bad chronic fatigue syndrome, and she'd recovered from it by something called Mickle therapy. So Mickle therapy was started by a Scottish doctor, David Mickle, and he would get his patients to kind of plumb their deepest fears and their deepest concerns. And by confronting all sorts of stuff that they were ignoring, he's able to take people who are sick but have a positive mental attitude. So they were sick but happy, and turn them into unhappy but well people. So I was fascinated. This is like Luke porn. So I started researching Mickle therapy on YouTube, and one of the first results was this Sheila Kim Knight. And so I've been watching a lot of her videos on YouTube, and she has an ebook. Isn't that great? She's got an ebook, and she's got an ebook called Essential Health Beliefs. And I think this ebook is really wise, and it has applications for the different ways that you and I regard COVID and the different ways that you and I may regard money and prosperity and politics and authority and religion. I think these ideas in her ebook have a lot of applications. So she says we all have beliefs that run like software in our consciousness, right? So these beliefs and assumptions, they may be conscious or unconscious or somewhere in between, but we have all these beliefs about how the world should work, and they can be passed down through us, through our parents and relatives, where we're born, our profession, our religion, etc. So if you grow up in New York, you may have strong opinions about the way life should be, which are going to be quite different from someone growing up in outback Australia. So we also have common beliefs about health. So here are some examples of common beliefs about health. I need to drink 8 glasses of water a day to be healthy. Or if I go out in the rain without a hat and a jacket, I will catch cold. If I travel on a plane and people have a cold or a flu, I will catch it. Or carrots are good for my eyes. Or if I don't get vaccinated for COVID, I will get COVID. Or if I don't get vaccinated for flu, I will get the flu. If I get an infection, I have to take antibiotics to get better. Well, this is a belief that I think I inherited from my upbringing. Disease is a punishment from God because I haven't been good enough. So that's essentially, I think, a belief that I inherited from my upbringing. So when I'm sick, I feel like this is some kind of moral shortcoming on my part. Smoking causes cancer. A virus caused my chronic fatigue. It's in my genes. There's nothing I can do about it. So Eliot says, I believe the weak are stacked up like cordwood and they are dragging us down. But Eliot, you're talking about the weakness in yourself. You may believe you're making a statement about urban life, but you're making a statement about Eliot Blatt. Like there's a weakness in yourself, a vulnerability in yourself that that when we take that awkward angle on anyone, including Eliot Blatt, we find vulnerability and weakness. So this is a safe place where weak and vulnerable people can come and share. This is a safe place for you. So you don't have to hate the weakness inside of you and the vulnerability inside of you. You don't have to hate those weak parts of you that you feel like are dragging you down. Those weak parts of you that you feel like are a millstone around your neck. This is a safe place where you can share these thoughts and these fears and these feelings. Because I think a lot of us, a major barrier that we have to prosperity, whether it's financial prosperity, romantic prosperity, social prosperity, I think a major barrier is that there are certain emotions that we are afraid to see and to confront and to deal with. And so we don't prosper so that we can avoid seeing and confronting and dealing with certain painful emotions. Eliot says, I don't hate the weak. Eliot says he doesn't hate the weakness inside himself. He just wants to encourage himself to be strong. Well, this is a safe place, Eliot, for you to encourage yourself to be strong. So, Kim Knight says, our health beliefs determine how we interpret our symptoms and then what actions we take to resolve our health problems. That's right. So some people, if they get sick, they feel like, okay, I need to go to the doctor. Or if they got back pain, I need a radiographic study. Then other people have the action, I'm never going to the doctor, right? And other people say, I'm going to the chiropractor. Other people have the health beliefs that, or chiropractic is bunk. So Eliot says, is it a good idea to lionize weakness? No. Is it a good idea to have a positive relationship with reality? Yes. Is it a good idea to recognize that we're all weak and vulnerable? Yes. Is it a good idea to recognize our own weakness and vulnerability and frailty and stupidity? Yes. Okay. So people tend to seek out healthcare that's congruent with their values. So for some people that means doctors, and for other people that means naturopaths, and other people that means looking things up on Google. Other people, they turn to Dr. 40 at 40 University. All right, we have these beliefs, and these beliefs determine what kind of care we seek. So some people have the belief that the depression and anxiety and mental illness is primarily a biochemical problem, so they're going to want to turn to psychiatrists for a biochemical solution to feeling down or bad. Other people believe that depression and anxiety is a result of not being good enough, of not having a close enough walk with God. Other people recognize that depression and anxiety is some unwanted habit that they picked up in childhood in reaction to certain circumstances. Eliot says, is learned helplessness something we should encourage or discourage? It's something we should generally discourage, but also recognize that there will always be stages in our life where we're helpless. You cannot escape vulnerability. Everyone will have a time when they are helpless. When your back goes out, when you've got 104-degree temperature, when you're lost, right? Helplessness is one inevitable stage of life. You cannot escape the stage of life of helplessness. Now, should we encourage people to spend more time in a state of helplessness than is necessary? No, I don't see a lot of upside to that. So I think some people have the attitude that wealth, prosperity, illness, like good things in life, that they just happen for no reason. Like that you might just get sick for no reason whatsoever. Or you might just make money or be poor for no reason whatsoever, that these things just happen to you, right? I notice a tremendous amount of passivity online. In my dissident right part of the internet, I notice on the one hand, you've got all these keyboard warriors who want to, take over the government and change the world. At the same time, they combine extreme political beliefs with extreme passivity in their own life. So my therapist said to me, do you think you might be so radical and extreme in your political beliefs because you're so passive in your real life? So we all have like a skyscraper of our beliefs. And then what happens when you encounter a reality that does not fit with your perspective on life? When reality blows down the skyscraper of your belief, right? That's when you have what could be called a spiritual emergency. I just heard of this term, spiritual emergency. Do I consider my beliefs to be extreme? I'm not sure. But I love this term, spiritual emergency, for when what we encounter in life just does not fit with our beliefs about how life should be. And so some people have a nervous breakdown, or you can call it a spiritual emergency, or you can get plunged into depression. But I think we all thinking people go through stages like this, and to develop a new way of thinking that works, we often have to let go and destroy our old skyscraper of beliefs. So often with our level of consciousness, we have to, demolish our old level of consciousness if it's not up to snuff, to take on a new level of consciousness. So it can be very awkward to be in this in-between period between one settled belief system, the new belief system, the old level of consciousness, the new level of consciousness. It's like painful, while your neural pathways and your consciousness and your beliefs are getting rewired. Yeah, see, Robert, he used to have a belief that America had an obligation to free the world. And so if you want to install new virus software on your computer, you usually have to remove the previous virus software that you had on your computer. Right? Sometimes your computer doesn't work until you wipe it and you do a complete rebuild. And so as we travel from one bank of the river to another bank of the river, we're sometimes caught in the rapids, and it could be quite awkward. Would I rather live in Kabul or Wuhan? I think I'd rather live in Wuhan. So what you believe to be true can change, right? So what we believe to be true basically accords with our level of awareness and consciousness, which is always changing. So Kim Knight says that in the West, we have 3 core healthcare approaches. We've got emergency solutions for acute conditions, right? The ER, surgery. Then we've got healthcare that addresses symptoms. And then we've got illness prevention. So you're going to choose your healthcare solution according to where you find yourself in terms of which level of symptom or illness you're experiencing. So whether you'll choose healthcare approach 1, 2, or 3, and also according to your level of awareness and belief. So for some health perspectives, symptoms are the enemy. They need to be wiped out with medication or with surgery as quickly as possible. All right. So a lot of people say, I just want to be rid of my symptoms. Right. So most of our problems are just symptoms of deeper problems. If you're watching this show, you're a smart person. And if your problems really were your problems, you'd be able to deal with them. But because your problems are merely symptoms of deeper problems, your solutions to your problems don't work. That's why we have to do the deep work of 40 University. So you can look at symptoms as the problem. Like, I got too much credit card debt. I'm fapping for an hour to pornography every night. I can't seem to hold down a job. I can't seem to sustain a relationship. All right, these are all symptoms. All right, so you can look at symptoms as the problem. Right, my neck and back are stiff today. Okay, those are symptoms. So those are symptoms of something that's physiologically going on with you. Maybe certain positions that you've been in today have led to this. Or it may be some unresolved emotional or ideological tension inside of you, or it may be people that you're dealing with. Take the crystal healing pill. Okay, your pancreas acts up every now and then, says Robert. Okay, that's the symptom. But what's really going on? Do we just say, oh, this is a symptom? Do we just deal with the symptom? Or do we regard symptoms as our friend? Right? Do we regard symptoms as part of the solution? Like, I've come to view my underearning as my friend because it made it painfully obviously clear to me that I'd completely changed the way I approach life and money and earning and prosperity. So as long as I realize I'm an underearner, I have to keep becoming open to new ways of approaching the topics of money and prosperity. Like, as long as I was bedridden by chronic fatigue syndrome or a bad back, I can be grateful for that symptom because it's making me confront that the way I was approaching life is inadequate. So we can see symptoms as the problem, skin itching, or we can see symptoms as the solution, right? Symptoms can be seen as a positive sign of intelligence from the body, trying to bring our attention to something which needs addressing in our life. Now, I think a lot of the reason that we have symptoms is because we're so afraid of addressing certain things that are just so painful. So for me, it's like I've tended to run my life on selfishness. I didn't want to confront this. When I became willing to, okay, let me see if I can move from 95% selfish to 90% selfish. Let me kind of up the hours in my day where I dedicate myself to being of service to others. Then things started to spiral in a positive way. Robert says his skin itching is a symptom of food allergy, but he can't get a referral for a food allergy doctor. So yeah, so from Robert's perspective, if you've got symptoms, you need to go, and the symptoms are annoying enough or painful enough or dire enough, you need to go to the doctor to get relief for the symptoms. But Robert, we're going deeper here. We're looking at symptoms as clues about something we need to address in ourselves and in the world around us. Not just something we need to get a Band-Aid for or a solution for. So there's the pathology model where we focus on managing our diseases, try to eradicate symptoms as quickly as possible. Or we can sit with the symptoms and try to understand the root cause of our symptoms. So the pathology model essentially looks at the physical part of the person. But we're not just a physical entity, we're also a spiritual entity, we're an emotional entity, we're an energetic entity, we're a mental entity. All right? So for true healing to occur, guys, I'm gonna quote great Kim Knight here. We have to treat the person, not the illness, right? We don't heal an illness, we heal a person. We don't heal your bank account, we heal you. We don't heal a health condition, we don't heal under-earning, we don't heal sex addiction, we don't heal chronic anxiety. We heal the whole person's life. So Robert says, I need a referral to a food allergy doc. And the guy I called, himself a doctor, tells me via his secretary the only offers referrals to other such doctors for people who have already seen him. Dude, you're treating the symptom. You're not treating the person. You are the person. You are the one who needs healing. It's not just your skin is itching. It's not just the pancreatic attacks, right? We have to go deep, right? You've got these beliefs that there are doctors out there who will cure your symptoms, right? And you're just looking at the physical part of your being. You've got symptoms, and symptoms you're seeing as the problem. Now, step one for healing is sometimes it's to see a doctor. Often it's to see, okay, what is it in my life that I don't want to address? What painful emotional issues am I afraid to look at? All right? What painful realizations am I trying to avoid? And so my body is constantly distracting me with pancreatic attacks or gallbladder attacks or digestive attacks or skin problems or asthma or chronic fatigue or headaches or back pain. My body is constantly trying to distract me from confronting very painful emotional truths about my life that I don't want to look at. All right? Do you want to interpret the message that is being sent to you by life and by your body, or do you just want to get rid of the message? All right? Symptoms are intelligent and necessary conveyors of information. So rather than always looking outward for solutions, maybe it's time to look inward. Maybe we need new levels of awareness and new habits to return ourselves back to balance. And then our body will no longer need to continually manifest all these painful symptoms to distract us from these painful emotional truths that we don't want to face. And Robert says, when I had gallbladder attacks, rather than address painful emotional truths, I had my gallbladder removed, which fixed me for decades. But then all these other things just kept popping up. So did it really fix you? So what's the healthiest attitude to have vis-a-vis COVID? I don't know. So today's stream is brought to you by Dr. Berg's gallbladder formula. I used to have gallbladder attacks. Then I started taking some Dr. Berg's gallbladder formula, extra strength, whenever I was eating a meal with a sufficient amount of fat in it. Gallbladder attacks. Yeah, Robert says the gallbladder surgery fixed me for decades, but then you had all these other problems. Like all these symptoms are trying to point you towards some painful emotional truths that you don't want to confront. No, you had other problems as well. But you get to distract yourself with all these physical ailments until you're willing to look at yourself as a whole being. You got to check out the Kiwi Health Detective. Oh, no problems for decades. Your life was just great for decades. I don't buy it, bro. So, are you ready to identify and to take away what is causing your body to go into imbalance? What is damaging your body so that you can self-heal? Right? We're going to seek out, for decades, no abdominal pain. Yeah, but you just had heart pain. You had the pain of a broken heart, bro. It's time to go for holistic healing, not just dealing with symptoms. All right, different healthcare approaches will address different levels of your being. All right? Now, your choice of healthcare is going to depend on your belief system. Right? We're going to gravitate to certain forms of care according to our beliefs. All right. Here's step number one for healing. My first responsibility is to myself. All right? Number one, your first responsibility is to yourself. Second responsibility is to your partner. And then all else follows from that. All right? You shouldn't put anyone else before yourself. All right? Your first responsibility is to yourself. You need to laugh every day. You need to get sunshine every day. You need to be outside every day. You need to play every day. You need to have inner and outer fulfillment every day. All right? So you can think, oh, these physical first responsibility sounds incredibly selfish. Well, you should aim for a 90% selfish life, right? So 95% selfish is average. Aim for 90% selfish and you'll be an ascended spiritual master. Okay, so Robert's perspective is, oh, physical symptoms, they're random. Illness just appears. It has no deeper spiritual or emotional meaning, right? Your body is infinitely intelligent, right? Symptoms always have meaning, right? So Robert's belief is, oh, I have to have outside intervention. I have to have medication or surgery to change the pathology or the chemistry inside my body. All right? You can understand that your body has self-healing mechanisms that will often heal you without external intervention as long as you give it the right conditions. Now you may think, oh, I need drugs or surgery to change the physiology in my body. Well, often you can get well without drugs or surgery by addressing the mental and emotional and energy aspects of yourself. It's like, oh, I don't trust my body to heal without outside intervention in the form of medication or surgery. Look, often you can completely trust your body to heal as long as you remove what is preventing your body from healing. It's like, oh, I'm a victim of circumstances. My body is a victim of circumstances. Right? The only option is medication or surgery. Right? Now, it may be that your body opened up to a virus because you wore it out so much to the point where your immune system could no longer hold the virus at bay. All right, so now it's time to check your, not just your health beliefs, but your beliefs about prosperity and your beliefs about life. Let's do this together. Okay, so complete this sentence. I will get ill if I. Right, so I was raised with I will get ill if I reject Jesus, if I reject God, if I'm a selfish SOB, if I'm a bad person, if I reject, God's healing love, I will get ill. Right, that was part of the ethos that I was raised in. So please finish this sentence. I will get ill if I. Right, what are your beliefs about what will cause you to get ill? Or I will be impoverished if I. All right, so I will be impoverished if I don't concern myself with helping other people, with being of service to other people. So I will be prosperous if I devote myself to being of service to other people who can pay me really well for that service. All right, people get ill when they, don't see a doctor? What are your beliefs? People get ill if they eat irresponsibly, if they don't exercise, if they don't get enough sunshine, right? My path to prosperity is being of service to other people who pay me well. I teach the Alexander technique for $100 for about 45 minutes, right? People pay me well to teach the Alexander technique. People pay me well to write and edit documents for them. Now, I'm not a millionaire, right? I'm on the improve. So the number of lessons I teach a week, it varies from like 0 to 10. So in order to heal illness or in order to heal poverty, one has to, and complete the sentence. When it comes to healing, I believe it is possible too. I deserve to get well because. I don't deserve to get well because. Right? Symptoms of the enemy, they're random. I have no control over them. I need outside intervention to clear them. Yes, I declare all my income to the IRS. Or do you believe that symptoms are your friend, symptoms are your ally, that symptoms have meaning, they have something to tell you? You just need to understand why they are there and resolve the root cause of the symptom to regain health. Do you know the specific beliefs and emotions that relate to your symptoms? Okay, so I'm thinking about our sphere of the internet. All right, we're the dissident right here. All right, marginalized people are attracted to marginalized movements. All right, so what kind of people are marginalized? Right? What kind of people, like me right now, talking to my phone, and then you watching some dude talk on his phone after reading an ebook by the Kiwi health detective, right? What kind of people are marginalized, right? With people who are raised with abuse, not necessarily sexual. I mean, I was like smacked around quite a bit as a child, right? I'd be bounced off walls, right? So if you're watching this, in all likelihood, you were raised with abuse, you internalize the abuse, you abuse yourself, you abuse others automatically, and you can't even help it, right? It's just become wired into your software. And what's another trait of marginalized people are attracted to marginalized political movements? We're people who don't trust easily. We tend not to trust because we were abused in childhood. We learn we can't trust people in authority, right? So then we become attracted to marginalized dissident movements like the distant right, right? So if you're watching this, you don't trust because I tend not to trust, all right? Why do we not trust? Because we were raised with so much abuse, all right? We don't deal well with authority. We have an instinctive negative reaction towards authority, a distrust of authority, because when we were growing up, authority routinely abused us. That's why we're here talking right now, all right? So marginalized people attracted to marginalized political movements are people who don't trust, don't deal well with authority, and we're doing all these crazy things to try to keep ourselves feeling safe, right? We can't risk trusting again because we were hurt so often in the past, right? We can't accept authority because authority abused us so often in the past. So we can't face disappointment again, all right? We've been disappointed so often that we can't deal with that pain of more disappointment. So remember how hard it was for me to finally get through the Orthodox conversion to Judaism process because I did not trust authority, did not trust the rabbis. I thought they would try to screw me over. I did not trust anyone in authority. It was really hard for me to put myself into that process again and again until I graduated. It was really hard for me to train to become an Alexander Technique teacher because I knew I'd be in a relatively small room with about the same 10, 15 people over the course of 3 years, and I thought for sure I'd alienate them and I wouldn't last, and I didn't trust authority, and I didn't trust the power that the system would have over me. All right, so if you're watching this right now, you probably alternate dramatically between I'm afraid to speak my truth. I just got to keep it all bottled up. I can't speak my truth. There's no safe place to speak my truth. And then speaking like way too much truth to way too much power, inappropriate times and places and ways, right? That's another thing I noticed about marginalized people or attracted to marginalized movements. They make these radical shifts between I can't speak my truth, I'm being completely squashed and silenced by authority, and then speaking like way too much truth than is in your self-interest, or speaking way too much and you have a greatly exaggerated understanding of how much truth you are dispensing. Is Alexander Technique teacher some kind of official title? No, it has no legal standing. Anybody can claim to be an Alexander Technique teacher. There are Alexander Technique teacher unions, so the Alexander Technique teacher unions have varying requirements, and they have various disciplinary procedures to keep people in line. So just like medical doctors can lose their medical license for spreading misinformation about COVID vaccines. Wow, congratulations, Potato. He is now an Alexander Technique teacher. All right. So why do people here have so much suspicion of the CDC and Anthony Fauci and public health authorities and politicians imposing mask mandates? Because we all here have an instinctive lack of trust in general and a fear and distrust of authority in particular, because we've been abused so often, right? So we probably alternate radically between afraid to speak my truth. So there are probably all sorts of circumstances and places where we should be speaking truth and we're not. And then on the other hand, speaking like way too much truth at inappropriate times in inappropriate ways. So press 1 if you're afraid to speak your truth. This is a safe space for you to speak your truth. All right, another characteristic I noticed of people on the distant right is that they downplay the importance of feelings. Like they think that anyone who feels anything strongly, that they're triggered and that they're a cuck. And you always win any kind of debate if you care less. So what kind of people put a very low value on feelings? People who are abused as kids and who are afraid to confront and deal with their feelings, who are like trying to keep the cauldron of their feelings pressed down. So press 3 if you downplay the importance of feelings. So I notice amongst the distant right, there's this widespread downplaying of the importance of feelings and this callousness towards hurting others and callousness towards themselves and their own feelings being hurt. And this attitude of, what's wrong with you? You are displaying feelings. Are you some kind of pansy? Right? So what is your belief when someone says to you, hey, you hurt my feelings? Like from my upbringing, anyone who'd say something like this was some kind of pansy, right? You just have contempt for anyone who speaks this way. But there are a lot of very successful people who, when they're told you hurt my feelings, they take that seriously. It's like, oh, maybe that's something I need to look at. Like I was raised to despise weakness. I was raised to despise feelings. And that doesn't work. I mean, you talked about feelings in my childhood and you'd get beaten up behind the dunny. And I wonder what percentage of our fellow dissidents here have good relations with their parents. I sense that with marginalized people, the word that perhaps best encapsulates them is estranged. Marginalized people and addicts tend to be estranged from their families, estranged from their communities, estranged from their country, estranged from their schooling, estranged from the powers that be. They just tend to be estranged. So marginalized people, if you're here on my show, you're afraid to trust, you fear and hate authority, you're probably estranged from your family, and you have this ton of pain inside, this cauldron of emotions that you're afraid to look at. And so to keep tamping down these emotions, your body is serving up distractions with gallbladder attacks or back pain attacks or itchy skin. Where are the women hanging out? They're hanging out in yoga studios, bro. This is a safe place for you to speak your truth and to share your emotional pain, right? So marginalized people like holding down this ton of pain inside themselves because they don't have other people who they can appropriately share it with. They're afraid to trust anyone. They're afraid to speak their truth, or they speak way too much truth. They turn their frustration and pain and anger inward as well as outward. They create limiting beliefs about what's possible. Hey, I'm only worth $11 an hour. They feel powerless. They feel despair. They feel trapped. I can't hold down, a regular job because I got this skin problem, man. So I'm going to have to work from home. I've got these health problems, man. I can't hold down a regular job. A lot of marginalized people, they're on disability, right? They feel powerless. They feel despair. They feel trapped. I mean, think about our own Laponius, right? After what Uncle Wally did to him, like is created in Laponius, self-hatred, self-disgust, self-loathing. He's taken his own emotional pain and he's turned it inward and then turned it outward towards people who bother him, right? Marginalized people hide. They hide their talents, their gifts, their dreams, their emotions. Marginalized people try to avoid adult responsibilities, such as getting married and having kids, and moving ahead in their profession and earning good money. Marginalized people tend to be paranoid, distrusting, they push other people away, they make excuses for why their problems are everyone else's fault or society's fault. They downplay the importance of their own feelings and other people's feelings. They resist taking action to build a more prosperous life. They do things and they can't stop doing them. They tend to have poor boundaries. They tend to have unrealistically high expectations for themselves and other people. That's why they're constantly being disappointed by themselves and others. So they have high expectations leading to disappointment and cynicism. And all because there's this pressure cooker of emotions that people are afraid to face. And so they need all this drama to constantly distract themselves. They need the dopamine hit of getting into internet drama, fighting with people online, right? So we have a pressure cooker of emotions inside that we haven't dealt with, that we haven't confronted, and we're stuck in life because we know to progress, we will have to face and deal with painful emotions, and we fear the vulnerability that will accompany that. Awesome advice, Luke. Too bad you cannot go back in time and offer it to your 20-year-old self. Well, I can be a good friend to myself right now. Robert says, I am a leper, not easy to get work. Hood says, I'm too boring to be marginalized. Potato says, it's been my impression that Christians are mostly raised to worship weakness. Well, maybe some Christians some of the time, but that's not endemic to Christianity. I want to get both sides of abuse together for mutual healing. Where do the marginalized women go? They go into psychotherapy, they go into yoga, they go into 12-step programs, they go to Al-Anon, they go to Love Addicts Anonymous, they go to CODA, Codependence Anonymous. Bye-bye.